Hey everybody, John Brown here, and I'm here to talk to you about Blood Rage. Now, Blood Rage is an awesome game. If you watch, I did a top 10 video. If you just have seen my videos on Board Game Geek, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel, because obviously it's not associated with one game, so I don't have a place directly to put it on Board Game Geek, and I don't really have my own guild or anything set up there yet. And when I did my top 10, Blood Rage was my number 2 game. So why is this video about why Blood Rage is my game of the year? Well, technically I put Roll for the Galaxy, which came out last year. I put it on there, it came out at the end of the year, it wasn't widely available, so I made the choice to do that. But you could say in reality Blood Rage was my game of the year because it was the highest ranked game that actually came out in 2015. And, well, there's a lot of videos about how to play the game, so I'm not going to do a traditional review, I'm not going to talk about how to play the game. Joel Eddy does a thing, you can see on the Dice Tower an entire playthrough of it, and Rodney Smith obviously does his fantastic, breakdown of exactly how to play the game. Champions of Midgard was up there too. I really like that game. Another Norse sort of themed game that plays very differently. That's worker placement, where this is an interesting mesh of different mechanisms. That's part of the reason that this game ended up slightly ahead, because of the combination of mechanisms and how they work together. Let's look at the game, let's look at the components, and this idea, this meshing of game mechanisms and how they work together to make a game round is how this game ended up so highly ranked on my list, so let's get into talking about that. Now first let's talk about components. Now here you can kind of see, the art style of the board. I mean, it's folded up, but this is just part of it. The board is very nice. I like it. It's pretty simple. Basically, you're just going to be placing guys in areas, as you know if you check out any video of how to play. These, however, is one of the few things in the game that there's this thing that you keep track of the rounds and what the next area is going to be destroyed by Ragnarok, and the functions around where you keep the cards, and then the player boards. These are, just thin, flimsy little things, and that's a little bit disappointing. Now, the artwork on them is nice. Let me get rid of this glare here. And each player has their own faction. And if you see anything about the game, the factions function the same as they start, and then will change throughout the game based on, what skills you upgrade and what, upgrade cards you put down. But this is one of the only disappointing aspects of the game, is kind of, as far as components go, these kind of flimsy player boards. And there are the tiny cards that you're going to have a lot of. In general, it's not a big deal. We're going to, draft these cards each round. I don't mind that they're tiny, but keep that in mind if that's something that bothers you. And, there's tokens, and the tokens are fine. They're pretty thick, decent quality. But the real, thing about this game that a lot of people, are excited about component-wise are obviously the miniatures. Now, what's fantastic about these miniatures is that each faction has 2 different sculpts for their warriors. So here's kind of the plain warriors for the faction that I put, the kind of the orange on. So they have similar weapons and stuff, but different stances. And then each faction also has a leader. Now each leader is unique with a different banner and everything, and each faction kind of has a theme. Each faction has a boat. The boats are the same for each faction, but, each faction does have one boat to start with. But here's, the red faction, so they have different weapons, different stances, and whatever. So these are just your regular guys, and all 4 of the factions have 2 unique warriors and then 1 unique leader. So, and they're all super high quality, and that is just fantastic. And then, obviously, also you have, the monsters that you can summon. So they're not all necessarily monsters, it can be heroes or whatever. So here's one of the smaller ones, and then 2 of the larger ones. And you can see, obviously, the highly detailed, they're not a Cthulhu Wars size, but they are pretty big, and they're very highly detailed, and definitely the star of the components of the game. Now, one thing I will say about this board that kind of shows you what's going on in the game is that I do love games that have components that tell you what's going on and how to play the games. You don't need to reference the rulebook. You have a little token, you keep track of, how each round plays, and there's 3 rounds to the game, and they'll function the same way. You draft cards, everyone does their actions, they just a card down to 1, you see if you complete a quest, and a place gets destroyed. Then any soldiers that died release in Valhalla, which you'll see, in any review that talks about how to play the game. But I love components that actually, do this and show you exactly what you're supposed to do. And it's this function, this way that the order of actions in a round go down, that really make the game fantastic. So to start off, let's look at just some of the cards and see how this works, give you an idea of how a round plays, not going through the rules, but why I like this game so much and how it melds, different ways to play games, different mechanisms in games in order to make a great game. So each round you're going to be dealt a hand of cards. There might be cards that give you access to those cool special creatures. There might be cards that give you missions to try to complete certain things within a round. There'll be cards that give you flexibility in battle to help you win, to give you bonuses for winning, or even cards that make you want to lose in order to get bonuses. You might put yourself in losing situations on purpose. And there are upgrades to your clan, there are upgrades to your leaders, to your warriors. So as you are picking these cards, maybe the first card you pick in each round is going to be just what you think is the most powerful. But as you see cards go around, as you see what's available, maybe you can get a lot of these missions in the same area. And you want to go a mission route. Maybe you have a lot of cards that benefit you for losing. Maybe you have a lot of upgrade cards and you just want to make the most powerful clan and win a lot of battles. And each round, as you draft these cards, you start to formulate a plan. So that then as you go out and do your actions, you are going to have, an idea of how you want the turn to play out. So the action's going to be the same every round, the things that you can do, and they're, again, on the bottom of your clan card. But the thing is as you upgrade your clan and give them special abilities, as you upgrade your warriors and your leaders, and you get access to monsters, and you have different stats on here for the number of action points you have, the points you get for winning battles, the guys you can have on the board, all of this is super important. Maybe you want to loosen battles so that you can get more guys on the board. Maybe you want to up the stat to get a lot of guys out on the board to win battles. And each round you're going to be picking things based on the board state. And the really neat thing is, each round the cards go up in value, and they get more powerful. The monsters get more powerful, the upgrades get more powerful. So for example, winning a mission in round 1 might get you 5 points, or in round 3 it might get you 9 points. Initially when I played this game, I thought it maybe suffered from what I call game show syndrome, where you can be dominating, in a lot of game shows for the first 2 rounds, and the final round is worth so many points that somebody can just win the game by doing well in that. And I thought this game, the first time I played it, maybe suffered from that. But then as I played it more, I realized that, maybe you have a strategy that's going to score you a lot of points one round, where you get a lot of guys killed and get a bonus for that. Then your guys aren't on the board for the next round, and the board state, is important. Maybe you didn't upgrade your clan and you can't win any battles in the next round, and you don't have anyone on the board, and that slows you down. So while you should score more points in round 3 than round 2 than you did in round 1, you are genuinely making your clan different than other clans. You're getting different upgrades. You have different stats. And you can go a quest-heavy thing where you try to max out every stat to get 60 points at the end of the game. Or you can use different strategies. And here's the neat thing: is you can use different strategies in each round, or you can keep going with one strategy throughout the game. But maybe players are seeing what you're doing, and that drafting mechanism comes in, where maybe people draft cards because they see oh, the state you're in, if I give you this card, it's really going to help you, so I have to take it, and it'll be good for me, maybe not ideal, but I can't let you have it. And each round is going to play out the same, yes, but, how you play each round is going to vary based on how you're set up. And this is really the brilliance of the game. You're going to draft the cards, and then based on the cards that you draft, you're going to play out your round, hopefully the way you wanted it to go. Decide one card to keep, and reveal your quest. And while you basically do the same thing 3 rounds in a row, it escalates, but not only does it escalate, but it varies based on what you've done up until that point. So I feel like that escalation isn't overpowered, and it really makes for a super interesting game. So what problems do I have with Blood Rage? Really, they are very minimal. Like I said, the player boards could be thick or whatever, and the rulebook, I feel like, could have done a little better job. There were a few things that the wording was iffy. I had the way I felt that it was saying. Some other people might have had some other feelings, and it's one of those things where you go on to Board Game Geek and see the forums, and one person saying, well, it absolutely means this, and someone else is like, no, it absolutely means this. So, overall the rulebook is good, but I feel like they could have done a better job of clarifying some interactions and stuff like that. There isn't really a section of the book that deals with exactly how certain cards function in that. And maybe the developers, Eric Lang or whoever, has gotten on to Board Game Geek since I looked at it, but, there wasn't really anything official when I looked, which admittedly was, relatively shortly after the game came out. And for the most part, we feel like we have an understanding of how to play, and we go with how we understand it. Those are some overall pretty minor quibbles because, like I said, I don't think the rulebook is bad. And other than that, it's really hard for me to find things that I don't like about this game. It's the more I play it, the more I like it, which is something that happened with Roll for the Galaxy. It's something that's happened with Champions of Midgard, and really, the best games tend to do that. You see more things and problems that I thought I might have had with it, I realize aren't the case, and I have less problems with it now than when I first played it. So, this is a really interesting game. Obviously there are going to be people, if you're conflict averse or whatever, who may not like it, but there's a reason why this is on most reviewers' top 10 lists. Time Stores is on a lot, but some people really didn't like it. Obviously Pandemic Legacy is on most people's list. That seems to be the game of the year for a lot of people, best game of all time for some people. But this is one that seems to be on a lot of lists, and unless you're somebody who really doesn't like that conflict-driven game. But if your group is okay with that, the only other potentially minor thing is that, if you back the Kickstarter, you get a lot more stuff. The base game is great for this game. I'm not really tempted to buy the expansions. They're pretty expensive in my opinion for what you get, probably because of the quality of the miniatures. I don't think they look all that interesting, and I probably wouldn't want to play this with a 5th player. I think this is... I haven't played it with 2. I think it's great with 3. I think it's great with 4. It runs a little bit longer than I thought it would for a 4-round game, but it's one of those things that you're engaged the whole time, and it's one that my group really, really likes, and it hasn't been very long since I did my list, but I feel like this definitely deserves its spot, and even, could potentially contend for my #1 game. I picked Roll to be my #1 game, Roll for the Galaxy, because I've just played it so much. It's a game we've played 2-3 times in a row. It's just so quick and easy, so beautiful. But this is a game that, in the long term, if I were to ever to do a top 100, down the road, I'm not sure which one would actually end up on top. So I want to say that don't worry if you're not getting Kickstarter stuff. You don't have to go out and get it. I probably wouldn't want a 5th player. The Gods and the I can't remember what the other one is, the Druid Shamans or something. They look okay, but even without it, this game is great. So a few minor quibbles, but the reason why this game hits so high for me is that each round is like a puzzle. And the way the drafting melds into the choosing your action and using your action points, melds into kind of the area control of the battles, melds into the point value of the armies in combat, and then adding the cards at the end, a little bit like Kemet, but better in my opinion here, because you have to draft those cards, and you don't know what other people have, and you have to play a card. You can be bluffing, you can purposely lose battles. The way all of those different mechanisms just meld into each other, and you can play with a different strategy each game, a different strategy each round, and while the different factions or clans aren't going to end up entirely different from each, it's not going to necessarily be a huge difference. I kind of like that idea of, instead of starting playing powers, pushing you down a path, or getting starting cards with missions, you get to choose your missions as you go, and I actually tend to like that better than saying, oh, I got these cards at the start of the game, so I guess I have to play this strategy, even though I don't really like playing that way, and you kind of differentiate your clans as you play. And just the beautiful melding of the mechanisms that don't feel separate but flow into each other each round is why this is one of the best games I've played in a long time, and look forward to playing a lot more. So thanks a lot for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon. And if you're watching this on Board Game Geek, please go ahead and check out my YouTube channel and subscribe. There's going to be more upcoming content that isn't necessarily directly based around a game, or even some different other nerdy stuff content that you might enjoy coming up in the future. But I'm going to do an update video for the channel about that soon. So again, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you guys again later. All right, bye.